Welcome to part 4 of my Hackintosh from start to finish series. This is the video that a lot of you guys have been waiting for. This video we're finally going to get our hands somewhat dirty and we're actually going to install OS 10. We're going to start with Snow Leopard and from there we'll go to Lion for reasons I'll explain in just a second. But hopefully by now you have your hardware. If you're not just looking at this for pure speculation for research purposes, if you've actually been following the series and you've actually bought some hardware, it might be on its way. If you have your computer built, this is the part where you actually install Mac OS 10 on your computer. Now, before we go ahead and do this, there's a few things you're going to need to know. And despite I just said it, I want to say it again. You have to go to Snow Leopard before you can go to Lion. And the reason for this is simple, is because Apple never released a DVD of Lion. Therefore, the only way to legally get this, and I'll stress this right now, if you go ahead and you go to a torrent site or anything and you download Mac OS 10, Snow Leopard, Lion, anything, I won't help you because this is already sort of against Apple as it is. However, and the least you guys could do is buy their software. It's not expensive. You could buy Snow Leopard for $30, Lion for $60. So with your hardware costs, to pay $60 for Snow Leopard and for Lion, to pay $60 to have the best OS in my opinion in the world, I think it's definitely worth it. So it's the least you guys could do is buy Apple's software. So real quick, let's just go in depth a little bit more into what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be installing Snow Leopard to the computer. Once you do that, you have to install the Mac OS 10 Lion image from the App Store. Or if you really want to, you could also buy the $70 Lion flash drive that Apple sells. I don't recommend that because it's twice as much money, and this way it's really the same in terms of difficulty. But from there, once we're on Snow Leopard and you bought the Mac OS 10 Lion image, you're going to be using another utility called UniBeast, and that will create a bootable Lion flash drive, and from there we'll upgrade to Lion. So this is sort of a jump step here, and this is exactly why just buying a Mac, if you bought a Mac now, it's already on Lion. You can just download a Lion image and you can back it up and you'd be all set. However, the way we're going to be doing it is a lot more drawn out, and once again, I think it's the third time I've said this in the series, this is where the ease of use goes completely out the window that Apple is very committed to. The Hackintosh, it's not that easy. So before we actually install Snow Leopard, there's a few things you're going to need. The first one is obviously the Mac OS 10 Snow Leopard DVD. This can be bought, like I said, from Apple for $30. It's a very, very nice price for an operating system, such an advanced operating system. $30 is nothing. You're also going to need a copy of iBoot and a blank CD to burn it onto. Now, to get iBoot, there's a link in the description. Go ahead and click that. That's right to the TonyMac X downloads page. Simply download iBoot. If you have any of the processors that I talked about, like a Core i7 or anything like that, then you'll probably be fine with iBoot. It just says iBoot there. However, if that doesn't work or you just have a different sort of a processor, you'll just want to get the iBoot Legacy. Both those should work fine for you. And no, this will not work with Lion. iBoot simply only works with Snow Leopard. You also need the combo update from Apple for 10.6.6, 10.6.7, or 10.6.8. You can just go, you'd be fine with 6, and the reason you need to update is because you need the Mac App Store in order to purchase Lion. You're also going to need Multi-Beast, which once again can be found right from the TonyMac download page. Just get the newest version. Get the one for Snow Leopard at this point. It's like 3.10, I believe. You need this because if you boot up into Snow Leopard without proper drivers, such as Network Driver, you won't be able to download the Mac OS 10 Lion image from the App Store, and you'll need this. So download it now while you still have internet access on your PC. At this point, if you really wanted to, you could probably just watch my older video on how to install Snow Leopard. However, I have new hardware since then. I don't use iBoot NVIDIA anymore, so I'm just going to be doing an updated video. It'll be probably better quality, hopefully just a little bit shorter, so here we go. So first things first, you have to go to the TonyMac download page, and as you can see, here's the list of all the downloads you have. Right at the top there, you have iBoot and iBoot Legacy. Just get the one that fits your hardware, nothing too difficult. Burn it with your favorite utility. More than likely, if you're watching this, you're probably going to be on a Windows-based system. So in Windows, once the ISO is downloaded, I believe you could just right-click it and say burn, and it'll burn it right to a disk for you. No questions asked. If you're on OS 10, you could just use disk utility and click burn, and you're all set. Alright, so here's the copy of iBoot that I have. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my system. And now another thing to keep in mind is that you're going to need a keyboard and mouse. It has to be USB. If you have like a Bluetooth keyboard, in my case I have the Bluetooth Apple keyboard here, this will not work because your computer's BIOS more than likely will not support Bluetooth. So you'll have to use a wireless keyboard and mouse, or I mean it could be wired, but it has to be USB. Alright, so now that the DVD's in, I'm going to simply restart my system. So first things first, here I am in my BIOS. Now you do need to change a few things in your BIOS. Your BIOS might not look exactly like this because you might have a different motherboard. You may have another Gigabyte motherboard, which will probably look very similar, if not identical, or you'll have maybe like an Asus or an MSI. Any one of those supported motherboards should look at least something like this. So what we're going to do here is go to Integrated Peripherals. And as you can see, there's some of these that say AHCI, such as this one here. Originally, it'll read IDE. Anything in this menu that reads IDE, you have to change to AHCI. So that would be this guy, this guy, this guy, and that guy. Now, if there's anything else in here on your motherboard, such as like USB 3 legacy support, I'll go ahead and enable that. I believe that just lets you boot from a USB 3.0 device, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really need that, but, you know, why not? But that's pretty much all you need to change. You just have to make sure that those things are enabled because I don't believe IDE works with either Snow Leopard or Lion. So if you have it set to read like IDE, then things will go wrong. So now let's just go ahead and jump into installing Snow Leopard. Alright, so as you can see, my system is off. It'll be restarting in just a second. And when you put the DVD in, or in this case the CD, you want to boot, you might have it already set up to just automatically boot from the CD, but if not, as you can see, I'm hitting F12, and that'll actually bring up my boot menu. Alright, so here's my boot menu. I'll zoom in on this a little bit for you guys. So as you can see, the third option down there is CD-ROM. That's pretty much what you do. You just go down, hit enter, and now it'll boot from that ISO that you burned of iBoot. Now, also I want to say to keep in mind that if you already have someone that you know, or maybe you already have a MacBook that's running Snow Leopard, you can skip installing Snow Leopard because on the MacBook you can skip to the next step for when we actually prepare the USB for Lion. So if you already have a system running Snow Leopard, or you have another way to legally acquire the app from the App Store, the Lion, you can just skip this step altogether, and you can just skip to where we actually do that in the video. So now as you can see, we're at the iBoot menu. So now what you want to do here is don't touch the keyboard just yet, eject the iBoot CD, and iBoot will stay in memory. So here's the iBoot disk that I just booted from. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my Snow Leopard DVD in. And I'm going to give that just a second to load. Alright, it's been about 10 seconds or so, so on my keyboard here, I'm going to go ahead and hit the F5 key. And now if you look closely, you'll see that I now have a Mac OS X installed DVD option. Simply hit enter, and now it'll boot from that copy of Snow Leopard. Now keep in mind that without iBoot, this would not be possible. If you put the Snow Leopard DVD in your computer without using iBoot, it wouldn't even read it. It would probably try for a second, and then it would just continue to boot into Windows. So iBoot is what makes this possible. So I'm going to go ahead and let this load for a second, and I'll be back once we're at the installer. So here we are at the Mac OS X Snow Leopard install menu. I'm going to go ahead and click this little arrow here, and we'll get started with the installation. So the first thing we're going to want to do here after we continue and accept is we're going to go up to Disk Utility, and we're going to get our hard drive ready. So coming up here, once it loads, come to Disk Utility here. Try to zoom in a little bit more on this for you guys. Alright, so focusing a little more over here, as you can see my plethora of hard drives. Here's my 500 gigabyte, and that's where I'm going to be installing it to. I have a Lion backup partition that is currently my Lion backup, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to name it something else, and we'll install Snow Leopard on it. So I'm actually going to come up here and hit erase. But for your case, you're probably just going to want to format your entire hard drive. You can partition it however you want, but just for you guys to learn real quick, you have to select the main hard drive, not the partitions on it, just the main hard drive. Come over here to partition, and once you do that, you can format it however you want. Currently, I have 3 partitions on it, but you could have up to 16, which would be ridiculous, but most likely you'll just want like 1 or 2. And once you actually go to format it, it has to be Mac OS extended journaled. Anything else will not work, so make sure that it is journaled. So once you do that, you're all set to go. But like I said, for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to erase this one partition. Come up here, make sure it's just simply journaled. Erase. And we're good to go. Alright, so now once that's done, we can exit Disk Utility. Now we have to find the partition we just made. As you can see here, Snow Leopard. Now if I were you, I would double click this. You'll get some install options. I would uncheck additional fonts and language translations. You could leave these two selected. It really doesn't matter, but especially the language translations, as you can see, that's 1.2 gigabytes of hard drive space that I'm saving by not installing that. And I'm never going to have to translate my OS into any of these languages, so that's just a lot of space saved. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and we're going to install. Now, if you're installing this to a hard drive like I am, this should take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, based on your system, based on your hard drive speed. If you're installing to a solid state, it'll probably take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So once this is done, I'll be back. Alright, so I've been greeted with an install succeeded screen after about 10 minutes. So now I'm simply just going to restart the machine. Now once the system restarts, you're going to want to make sure that you have your iBoot DVD in, or actually in this case a CD. So I have mine on hand right here. Alright, and there she goes restarting. And yes, I said she. So I'm simply going to go into my boot settings again by hitting F12. Your motherboard may be different. And here we are at the boot menu once again. Go down to CD-ROM. Alright, here we are once again at the iBoot menu. And as you can see now, we actually have one called Snow Leopard. It's not just Macintosh SSD or Windows, which by the way, you won't have those two if you're just getting started. You'll probably just have iBoot and Snow Leopard, but these are existing partitions on my system. I'm just not really willing to throw these out, so I'll boot right into Snow Leopard. Now, depending on the graphics card and whatnot that you picked when you built your system, you may or may not have some drivers. So now this is the part where we're going to have to break out Multi-Beast. So as you could probably hear, I should be seeing an intro video right now, but since the graphics card I have doesn't support drivers out of the box without Chimera, I'm not going to see it, but instead I'll be greeted with the little welcome screen. So let's just go ahead and go through this, set this up, and I'll be back once I'm done. Alright, and here we are at the Snow Leopard desktop. You can confirm this by going to About This Mac. Now as you can see right here, pretty much everything at this point is unknown. I only have 4 gigs of RAM visible because I'm running in a 32-bit kernel. 3.5 gigahertz is correct, but it's an unknown CPU type, so that's all fine for now. But the important part here is that we have 10.6. So now what we have to do is use Multi-Beast. Now I already have this downloaded, so I'll go ahead and open it up. Alright, so here's the Multi-Beast main menu. We're just going to go ahead and click Continue. Now pay attention to not everything, but some things. Now if you are using a user DSDT install, all you do is you download the DSDT from the TonyMac database, the DSDT database, for your specific motherboard. And once you do that, you place it on the desktop, rename it to dsdt.aml, and from there all you do, you select user DSDT install, and that's all it takes to install a DSDT. Your motherboard will work great after that. Now moving down here to System Utilities, this isn't required, but it's highly recommended that whenever you install something from here, you click this little checkbox. That will just kind of flush everything out and just rebuild everything, and it just makes things go smoother. Moving down here to drivers and bootloaders. Now the main thing here, the most important thing, is the bootloader. You want to install Chimera. That's an absolute must here. Otherwise your system just won't boot without the DVD, or the iBoot CD rather. So now for KEX and bootloaders, this all depends on your system. For my motherboard, I have to install the ALC8. I have an ALC889 HDA controller, so I also have to install the rollback. Now once I enable those, I will have audio. So just keep on selecting the various things that you need. Now moving down here to boot options. If you want to have 64-bit, or in other words, if you have more than 4 gigabytes of RAM, you want to enable the 64-bit Apple boot screen with graphics enabler equal to yes. That's just this one right here. So once you've set up Multi-Beast with all your settings, you really just want to set it aside for right now. Don't hit install yet. Now what you're going to need, hopefully over here you can see that, is the 10.6.6 combo update. Like I said earlier, this could be 10.6.6 through 10.6.8. It just has to be one of those in order to get the Mac App Store. So once that's mounted, as you can see, it brings up a little package. Double click the package and it'll bring up the combo update installer. So click your way through this, and now just let this do its thing. Alright, so once it says the installation was successful, that's when you bring your Multi-Beast window back with everything selected and click continue. Now what this did was it updated us to 10.6.6. I believe without even restarting, if you come up here, it'll say 10.6.6. Hopefully you guys can see that right there. without restarting, it recognizes we're on 10.6.6 now. However, we're doing multi-beast so that once we're up in 10.6.6, like we reboot into it, we'll already have our kex installed over top of it. We won't have to restart without kex, install multi-beast, and then restart again. Now everything will just be there once we restart. So once that was successful, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the combo update and click restart. And what you think will happen? My computer is now restarting. So before continuing on, I just want to apologize really quick for jumping straight to Lion. Pretend this is Snow Leopard. The only reason it's like this is because somehow my footage got deleted from this next clip here, and I've already deleted Snow Leopard. You might be able to see it up there. It's still named Snow Leopard, but I don't have Snow Leopard installed, and I'd have to completely reinstall everything and re-update to 10.6.6. And with all the editing and getting ready to go back to school, I just don't really have the time for that right now. And so I figured since it would be the same process on both Snow Leopard and on Lion, I figured I would just stay here and just warn you guys. So, but just pretend this is a 10.6.6 system because, like I said, everything will work the same. So once you're on 10.6.6, you see that you'll have the Mac App Store. Simply go to the Mac App Store, type in Lion, or it's probably even on the home page, and simply download it. It's a very well spent $30. And for this next step, you're going to need two things. You're going to need UniBeast, which could be downloaded from the link in the description. It's the same place that you got iBoot and MultiBeast from, the download page. You're also going to need an 8GB or higher USB flash drive. You could also use like an external hard drive. Anything that's USB and has at least 8 gigs of storage will work. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my system. And once it's plugged in, I'm going to go ahead and open up Disk Utility. Open it up on my other monitor over here. So I'll go ahead and zoom into this for you guys. So here's my 8GB flash drive. I'm going to come up and partition it. You're going to want to do the same exact process for yours. Now, right over here, it's set to FAT right now. Make sure that, just like your installation, that it's journaled. And you can name it whatever you want. I'm just simply going to name it UniBeast. One partition, 8GB. And this one, you want to make sure is MBR. So after you hit OK, simply hit Apply and partition. Now this will format whatever's on that flash drive, so make sure you have anything that you need backed up. And as you can see, it is now done. So now you can go ahead and close out of Disk Utility. And so now what you want to do is you want to take your Lion image that you have and you want to drag it into your Applications folder. If it's not there, then UniBeast will not work. So speaking of UniBeast, let's go ahead and open it up. I have it right here. Alright, so now that Lion is in your Applications folder and you have UniBeast open, simply click Continue, 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 Agree. And now make sure you don't leave this selected. I don't think it'll let you install to it, as you can see this little triangle here, but yours might. In case it does let you install to it, just please don't, that'd be very bad. Instead, select UniBeast, or whatever you named that 8GB flash drive. So now you want to go ahead and click Continue. And moving up here, as you can see, we have Mac App Store, Install Mac OS X Lion. That's obviously what I recommend. If you move down, if you bought that $70 USB thumb drive from Apple, that's what you would use. Obviously, you just plug it in your computer and this does the rest. However, this is just what I recommend. It's cheaper and it's faster. So once that's selected, if you have a laptop, which I don't recommend hacking any laptop, any MacBook is worth it. I would never recommend you Hackintosh a laptop. Just buy a MacBook. It's just not worth it. But anyway, just go ahead and click Continue. Now this will take some time. I imagine this would take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on your flash drive speed and whatnot. So once this is done, I'll be right back. Alright, so as you can see, the installation of UniBeast was successful to the flash drive. You can now close out UniBeast and you're ready to start the installation of Lion. Now I will say there are other ways to actually install Mac OS X Lion. You can look back on my channel for those, but this is the most foolproof, like the easiest, most conclusive way to install Mac OS X Lion. You simply plug in your flash drive, the bootloader is on the flash drive, you just boot from it, it installs, you reboot with that bootloader, and it just goes from there. You use MultiBeast. It's very easy. But I just wanted to point out really quick that you can use other methods, and I will also say that this will do a fresh install of Lion. If for some reason you want to upgrade from Snow Leopard right to Lion, you can look back on my channel for the upgrade video, but like I said, we'll be doing a fresh install, which I always recommend anyway. So we're going to go ahead and restart, and I'm just going to leave my flash drive plugged into my machine, and so I'll be back once it reboots. And now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it not to boot from the CD, but to boot from USB HDD. Now, if you have any other USB devices plugged in your machine, unplug them and hit enter. Now, as you can see, you have the Unibeast logo up there. As also on the left here, you have a little Unibeast selector. You have your other partitions, but you're not going to want to boot from those. You're going to want to boot from the flash drive. So simply hit enter and it'll boot up. And I'm sure you noticed with your system as well that it was much faster since it was booted from the USB. And also with this card, if you noticed on Snow Leopard, I did not have graphics drivers. On here, everything looks perfect even when booting from the USB. So I'm going to zoom into this once again for you guys. And yes, ich nicht sprechen Deutsch, so I will use English for the main language. And we're going to continue. And just like last time, I'm going to go up to Disk Utility and format this partition. I'll just leave this name to Snow Leopard. I'm too lazy to change it. But erase. And it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and find Snow Leopard. Double click it. Sometimes I have noticed it's really weird. Sometimes there are settings here that you can tweak. Other times there's not. Usually it's just like server. You can opt in to install server, but right now that's not here, so don't need to worry about it. And go ahead and click install. Now you get this little warning here. You may or may not get this. If you do, just hit continue. There's nothing you can really do about it. But when I installed Lion to my solid state drive, I did not get that error, so I'm not quite sure. It says File Vault won't work. Personally, I don't use File Vault. I don't really even know what it is. So it may or may not work for you depending on this installation. If it won't work, I'm sure it'll tell you like it just did. But this will probably take around 10 or 15 minutes, so I'll be back when it's done. So in the interest of saving time, what I've decided to do is just hack off that last part. Once Lion is done installing, the process is very repetitive. You simply reboot using that flash drive that has the bootloader on it. You select your Lion partition, you enter your settings, and you do multi-beast just like you did on Snow Leopard. And so you'll have a fully running Lion setup. So there you guys have it. That's the pretty lengthy process that a Hackintosh requires to install macOS X Lion. But the nice part is that now that you have that 8GB flash drive for Unibeast, if you keep that handy, you don't have to install Snow Leopard anymore. Anytime you want to reinstall, you simply just plug in your Unibeast and boot from it, reinstall. Now it's a whole lot shorter now that you got that initial installation out of the way. Now that you have a legit copy of macOS X Lion installed to a flash drive, you can use that at any time and you'll never have to touch Snow Leopard ever again unless you really want to. So since this video is ridiculously long as it is, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this up. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm at CPU Kid on Twitter. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can also comment right down below. Please like this video. I put a ton of effort into this series, especially this video with recording the whole installation process. So I hope you guys got a lot out of it, and I hope you guys are this much closer to getting a fully working Hackintosh. The next video we'll be looking at some post-installation things like getting dual displays working, little things like that. But the meat and potatoes, I guess you could say, of the Hackintosh installation is now complete. You should be able to boot up into macOS X Lion, provided you installed your bootloader and everything to the hard drive for multi-beast. So like I said, if you have any questions, you guys know how to get at me. Thanks for watching.